All right, in honor of the late, great Chris Cornell, today we're going to break down the classic Soundgarden song, Black Hole Sun. And first of all, it is in drop D, which means you turn the low E string down to a D note, and it's going to sound a little something like this. So basically, it is very heavily affected. I think they're using a eventide chorus on it. I have a Electro-Harmonix Neoclone with the rate turned all the way to the max and a little bit of delay on it. So you kind of get like a... And I think what they were doing, they use like a Leslie speaker cabinet to kind of get some of that vibrato swirling sound. Really signature, cool kind of effect, right? So this is going to be a good lesson in using drop D as an alternative tuning where you can really make cool sounding suspended chords a little bit easier, because I think Chris Cornell was an absolutely awesome guitar player, very underrated. Now I don't know if him or Kim actually came up with this riff. It seems like more of a Chris thing. If you ever watched a lot of live stuff with Cornell playing, you'll see that he's really doing a lot of like single bar chords with little variations, and this is like a really good example of that kind of playing style. So what we're going to start off with is just bar the 5th fret. We need to hit the E, A, D, and G strings. Even though the low E string is now a D, I'm still going to call it the E string. And we're just going to go straight up it. Right? Just like that. So E, A, D, G, D, A, E, to the next one. Okay? So before we get to the next part, I want to talk about this kind of 4-note chord that we have going on. So basically, this is a major, well, it's a suspended 4 chord, okay? So if you look at like a G major chord, a usual bar chord in standard tuning would look like this, right? Where you'd have the root G, then you'd have the 5th, the octave, and then the 3rd. Now, if you just kind of hone in on these 3 notes right here, and you take that 3rd, and you raise it by a half step, you get what's called a suspended 4 chord. You take that 3rd, and you suspend it. So it's not really like a major or a minor chord. It lacks the 3rd, but it has a suspended 4. Now you can do the same thing the other way, and you can get a suspended 2 chord. But our root note is going to be a G, because now the 5th fret, which used to be an A if it was in standard tuning, is now actually a G. So we have a G suspended chord, which making this as a bar chord would be, you know, not impossible, but a little tougher if you were in standard. So it's just one way you can kind of really use the power of drop D to kind of make a cool sounding chord with just 1 bar of the finger, right? So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to change the lowest, the bass note, from 5 to 8. Okay, so we've got the 5th fret to the 8th fret, which is a B flat now. So it's kind of like a B flat major type thing because it has a B flat in its major 3rd. And then we're going to do something that is very signature Soundgarden Chris Cornell, and we're going to start descending in what's mostly a chromatic fashion, just 1 note at a time. So after we get this done, now this isn't going to be chromatic. We're actually going to go 2 frets back to the 3rd fret, and we're going to start the same process by barring it. But instead of going to a suspended chord with your pinky or your ring finger, we're going to hit the 5th fret on the G string. Okay, and what we do here, we kind of make like a really massive power chord. And this is something that is really hard to do in standard tuning on these same frets. You kind of add it up here. But basically what we have going on here is we have the 3rd fret on the low E string, which is now an F. It used to be a G, but now since we tuned down, this is an F. We have a C. We have another F. And then we have the octave C. So we have 2 Fs and 2 Cs. So it's like an F power chord, an F in its 5th. So now we're just going to descend down a half step, down 1 fret, and it's going to be the exact same chord, but now we're 1 note lower than F, so this is an E. And between these, a lot of times what they do is they hit this open D string to kind of get to the next one. So from here, open 3, open 2, open 1, and kind of having that open D kind of, it's not really droning, but having it in between is kind of leading your ear towards, whatever. It's leading your ear this way, down, lower, because we're eventually going down to a D7 chord. But before we get there, we have one more suspended chord, which is just the first fret barred. So this would be like a D sharp or a E flat suspended 4 chord. And we go through it again, 1, 1, 1, 1. And that last part is just open on the low E string, which is a D note, 3rd fret on the A string, open D, 2nd fret on the G string. So we have a D, a C, a D, and an A. Now this is really going to be, we're going to look at this as like a D7 chord, like a D7 dominant 7 voicing, because we have 2 Ds, so it's a very D-centric chord going on, with a C and an A. So the 5th of a D chord is an A, and then a C would be the flat 7, so that's where we get that dominant 7 chord voicing from. So again, if we just look at the chords, we have a G suspended 4 chord, a B flat, then we start with the power chords, F to E, to the D sharp suspended 4, to the 7 chord, the D7 chord. So it's a very cool way to kind of start descending. After we have this one kind of raised note, now we're just going to start descending. And it's a cool way to kind of lead a song in a certain direction with like the help of like some really cool trippy effects. It kind of makes one of like the signature songs in the grunge era. Which, side note, I don't really consider Soundgarden to be a grunge band. I know it gets like kind of looped in there, and nothing against grunge bands, especially when it comes to like what people think of like the Big Five. I'm a huge Stone Temple Pilots fan for sure. I like Nirvana, but I think Soundgarden is kind of like separate from that band because to me they're the most musical of those era bands. So I almost think it's a little disrespectful being thrown into the grunge kind of hat as they kind of are. Anyways, it's an awesome song. Totally great album. Super Unknown. Probably like one of my favorite albums of all time, if not my favorite. If you like that, you definitely have to check out King Animal, which is their latest album, because I think that is criminally underrated. So please check out some Soundgarden. Show those guys some love. It's a tough time. One of the greatest bands of all time, in my opinion. And if you have any questions or comments, please hit me up on the website, in the comment section, on Instagram or Twitter, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot.